about these console makers, of course, fighting and trying to like to defend their stance. Of course, we're talking about 20 plus years working with their manufacturers, investing a lot of money in these establishments in China to make sure that everything runs smoothly. You just look at Tesla, and it takes a while to build that up to be able to be profitable, and the console business itself is already like the car making business, very minimum profit in the hardware and often at a loss for like the first 4 to 5 years, and they rely mostly on servicing and everything else, right? So they're trying to use the excuse that it's going to cripple the consumer in terms of like spending more money, but it most likely will cripple them first if they have to spend as much as like twice now to make one hardware to sell at a loss. And so it's going to be a diminishing industry, I think, is what they're looking at.
I think, again, this just plays right in hand with us saying consoles are going to be dying very soon. You know, because you look at Stadia. Yeah. Stadia kind of ignores this business model.
Stadia is not even part of this conversation.
They don't even care. They're like, oh, well, we're handling all that. You just need to be able to access our network to play the game. Yeah. And I think that this even more so pushes the lever towards that kind of reality. But what I will say is tariffs imposed between two countries don't change the behavior of the corporation. The corporation says, we want to find the cheapest way to make this product, right? China's been tariffed. That doesn't mean stop subsidizing by outsourcing. That means stop subsidizing by outsourcing to China. Yeah. So now they just say, oh, well, how about Vietnam? How about Indonesia? How about India? How about one of these other countries? All right, we're going to pay 3 more cents per iPhone. Right. That's not as bad as paying 18, 20, 50, 90, $200 more.
And I think the government sees that as like obviously the next step for most corporations to fight back on this, and I think they're okay with that, to be honest, because they're trying to kind of like slow down China's progress in everything. Yeah. They are killing it with everything right now, and they have so much money kind of padding themselves up, and all the technology is going through siphoning through them before hitting consumers. And so they have not just their own scientists and anybody that's working within the technology sector, they have the whole world pumping in all their resources and the best products through them. And so you can see how powerful they are over there in China. And China is still a communist country. You guys don't realize. I mean, they still censor whenever they feel censoring. It's not like a great solution or a model country, but in terms of generating the resources and income, and in the last 20-30 years, that they've been insanely smart and like several moves ahead. And if anything, China is probably the closest to operate like a corporation than anybody else, in my opinion. Because of how it's their
the structure of works. Like a communist government seems. I could see the parallels between that and like obviously a CEO run corporation, board of executives run corporation, where mandates are created, passed down, and expected to be executed and lived by by employees, by countrymen. I can see that.
And if you look at all parts of their industry, and then we're just kind of slicing it to just entertainment, because that's more closely related to us. If you just go outside of games, like their movie industry has become such a megalith. I mean, they've always been around ever since the Bruce Lee days, and made a somewhat of a notice, right, of saying like, hey, we're around and we produce great films. But it's now like a commodity for even U.S. films to make a present where they have to include a Chinese actor or location to be able to want to be in that market, because that's a huge hundreds of millions of dollars of blockbuster money that either equates or like at least on the level playing field of the domestic sales of every movie that's being launched. And that's mostly because of them taking several steps ahead and thinking, how do we compete and really gather all those resources.
I mean, it's smart, right? Because all those people in China still like to be entertained and watch movies as well, and they have enough disposable income that they can buy a movie ticket. It's not going to hurt you to write in 2-3 characters who I hate to use the word, but kind of pander to that audience.
Yeah.
It doesn't disrespect your art. It just means that you're trying to do something a little more economical and be a good business, make a good business decision. Like you look at World of Warcraft, the movie, domestically, I would say it was not successful.
Yeah.
But China alone made that movie worthwhile, I think, 3 times over.
Yeah.
Just from the amount of people
exactly
that supported it in China.
And that turned a lot of heads and executives in the entertainment industry are the same way, right? They only see green, and they don't care. Yeah. And there is a certain danger to that, because if you as a nation don't really pay attention too much about having a country's competitiveness, and China's constantly thinking about that, how to like leverage themselves and be in a dominant position 20, 30 years down the line.
Yeah, they're playing the long game.
Exactly. And what is the outcome of that? I mean, they're not gathering resources just to be on the tallest podium, right? I'm not exactly saying they're going to call a warfare or anything, but there is a certain competitiveness that we've lost, I think, in the U.S. when we're just exporting all the goods over there.
If I was China and I look at how they're positioning themselves right now, how I would play my chess pieces is becoming so integral in the success of other nations' corporations worldwide means that I'm directly related to the success of those nations' people, their jobs. Like, how many people do you think Microsoft employs? How many people do you think Sony, Nintendo, any of these major technological corporations employ? Not just from like the native countries of Japan, or wherever else those technologies may come from, Korea, like for Samsung. There's a lot of people domestically, even US, who work for Samsung, who work for Sony, who work for Microsoft, Nintendo, all of these technology companies. So when you start summing up all the hands that touch these products that go through China domestically, that's like you saying all those people are going to be without jobs, or we're going to impact their lifestyle if things go bad. China knows this, so the more reliant they become for helping these other corporations do well, the less likely you're going to see other domestic nations or other nations want to attack or want to have a bad diplomacy with China. So therefore, China then becomes a powerhouse even further, not only with manpower, but just because relationship power.
Yes.
That, oh man, they're untouchable now. Yeah. And I think that's
a monopoly.
Exactly. That's the route that they're going for as a superpower, is they're going to be integral in the success of not just other nations, but the corporations as well, which employ, just immense amounts of people. And there is no politician that will stand up in front of like 400,000 people about to lose their job and say, we need to be tougher on these people so that, the country benefits. And when they're like, no, because we are going to lose. We are going to be out of work. We are going to have X, Y, and Z happen to us. So I think it's pretty smart. It's like, it's Trojan horse style, growth, but that's
super.
It worked.
Asian,
it worked
Chinese,
then. It's going to work
attacks.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.